everyone, and welcome to Digital Dialogues powered by CXO Digital Pulse. We are in an era where enterprises have moved their focus from data strategy to AI strategy. The entire conversation of data has moved from data management to data sovereignty, data security. And just to discuss all these matters much more in depth, we have a very special guest with us who is Roshmik Saha, who is the co-founder and CTO of Skyflow. A very warm welcome, Roshmik.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure, Roshmik. So, Roshmik, when we are talking about enterprises, now the concern or the first question when they ask to any data management provider is that where are you storing the data? So this sovereign aspect has taken a front seat where right now people were not that much bothered, be it related to regulation or compliance driven. So do you think this sovereign aspect has any impact on managing the overall data for any enterprise, be from the providers per se or from industries enterprise data strategy? Does it impact the innovation, the ethical aspect? So what's your perspective on that?
So I think you said something interesting there, that what is the impact of data sovereignty, right? And it can potentially have a huge impact.
Okay.
But if you look at it, every government has to have their jurisdiction over the data of its citizens, which kind of makes sense, right? And I would argue that if companies solve it with the right architecture, it can speed up their innovation. And if they solve it in the wrong way, it can cost maybe upwards of 10x of what they potentially can. And they will have tons of issues, right, with the regulations and compliance. And I think with GDPR, with DPDP coming to India, and I think most of the countries either have a version of it or will have a version of it in the future. And with advent of Gen AI, this becomes more and more of a problem, right? Okay. But if you break it down, that what do they mean by data residency? The government is not, it's trying to regulate the citizens' personal data. So most of the time, they don't have a comment on the rest of the data that the business and enterprises are collecting.
Okay.
And once you realize that, it is actually a very small portion of the entire data that enterprises are working on. And if we can handle the sensitive data or the personal data properly, then the problem is solved. So actually, if you now think about some MNC is doing business in say 50 odd countries, there will be some business intelligence they want to build over the entire data set. And if you ask any of the ML and AI engineers, they will say that they don't need personal data to build any of the smartness. Okay. So if with the right architecture, it is not even a problem. So you can actually have your global intelligence built on the entire data set, which is anonymized, and you have no personal data. And then for each country, you can just have the personal data in that country inside a vault. And then you can just go to market in different geographies without any problem and without even spending a lot of money. So at Skyflow, we have a product called Data Privacy Vault, where our customers basically put a vault in all the markets they are operating in, and then they can either choose to split out the rest of the data or not, and globally have one place where they're managing the rest of the data. And since the tokens that we create are not related to the actual data, so it's not a cryptographic algorithm, it is a random or based algorithm. What it means is the token has no relevance to the actual data. And so the anonymized data is actually not under any kind of compliance. So if you split the problem in the right way, then it can actually be a innovative kind of give you an edge.
Okay, that's great. And Roshmik, as you elaborated that, how the residence of the data is something which is there in the mind of enterprises. I'm sure this is something which is driven by data security and data privacy aspect. What is actually under the purview that should remain in the Privacy Act, that is something we can definitely discuss in the follow-up question. But first, I want to like to understand, enterprises are looking at the approach, or they have a strategy of a patchwork, or they are pretty much with an approach of trust by design. And what's the key difference, and what should be the ideal approach for it?
So I think that's a great question, and that's probably my favorite question. Patchwork doesn't work.
Okay.
So like be it a tire that you need to patch up, you can put hundreds of patches, but you will still have to replace the tires at some point. You can delay it for a long time,
Okay.
but at the end it doesn't give you the benefits. Either your car becomes too noisy, or it cannot hit certain speed limits, and we all want to go fast, at least so
I think everyone wants to have that fast pace nowadays.
exactly. But then I think this fear comes from you have started building something, and at some point you need to add a solution, right? Security and privacy has been an afterthought for the longest of the time. I think it is changing. So I think we are seeing the right indications where people are trying to think about it and trying to include it in the design phase. But then you have at some point, so I am of the opinion that you should solve problems from the first principles, which actually means that when you are starting to build a product, privacy and security is part of the architecture. So architecture is almost can be similar to design or can be one layer below it. And if you start it that way, you spend a lot less money. You actually go to market much faster. Your legal department and your compliance department, you can still have friends in those departments and not run after you, right? Where you are not giving them, or you're creating future problems for your company. And all that can be done if you are solving it in an architectural way. What it means is actually just like very simple things, right? Like today nobody should keep passwords in their databases, and every time I ask an audience, there is still one hand, and I'm sure 10 other people are not being honest. And the same way, like if you handle the sensitive data in the right way, so whenever we talk about data privacy and data security, it's all about personal data, right? Or your healthcare data or your financial data, which can have a meaningful impact, right? And if you handle that, and what we say is isolate the PII out of your data stores, then you will never have to, you never are supposed to have a problem. And then you can move fast, you can go to market faster. If you, even future regulations will not create a problem, because regulations are kind of a check and balance for things that people are doing wrong, and the top 10 priorities, right? But if you solve it well at the first go, then future regulations, future use cases, you are protected. So from all the future aspects.
Okay. And considering from this aspect, I would like to elaborate this question that now AI is moving more ahead of Gen AI, where it's autonomous. We are talking about agentic AI, where maybe for certain organization, bifurcating the PII may not be valid. They have to include in their system. So how do you suggest with this evolving ecosystem, they are more aware of the security aspect when using this agentic AI as the per se, and apart from that, with this anonymity, they need to also ensure the ethical aspect. So how can that be approached?
So anonymizing, when we think about data security and data privacy, what we are commonly used to is like a one-way masking, one-way redaction, or one-way tokenization, right? So if what if you could protect the data without losing the context, right? Without losing, so you mentioned autonomous or agents. What if you could get back, you could de-anonymize the data when you need to, right? And you could even add governance to it. Like LLMs don't have a governance kind of model into it, and that's why the ethical question also comes in, like how do we assess who is using the data, for what purpose are they using the data? They don't have any kind of an audit system, right? So if we can build all of this, where we can prove that you are using the data in the right way, no wrong eyes are getting access to the data, then we are all good, right? And that is one of the things that we are doing at Skyflow, is we are providing context-aware tokens that can be used to train the models. It can be used to use it at the inference time, and where no sensitive data is actually making it to the LLMs. And once you do that, and we act like a privacy filter. So as the data is going in or coming out, and especially when it's coming out, you can actually apply governance also to it. And by the way, like, I think guardrails provides you some assurance, but it is never 100%. So sometimes it can be a false assurance that it kind of protects you, but then all of us know that it breaks down at certain points, and then your ethical violations or your compliance violations can easily creep in. And so
that's great, Roshmik. And what we have clearly understood that data is the gold. It's the soil which everyone would like to cultivate, nourish, to achieve the most sustainable growth. That's what the enterprises are looking forward. But along with that arises concerns of, rather than data management, more around that how are they securing the data. So having a patchwork approach will not work. That's the way, and it's the security by design that needs to be imbibed in your overall strategy. And definitely there are organizations like Skyflow who are providing you those secure walls where you can preserve this precious element of yours, the data, in the most secure manner. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you, Roshmik, for such insightful conversation. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to our lovely audience. Do keep in tuned to this aspect of digital dialogues. We'll keep coming back with more insightful conversation with the experts from the industry. Till then, take care.